In the hashtag Herzl100, I shared 100 Herzl artifacts in 100 days, starting on June 6th, 2026. They were shared on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at hashtag Herzl100. In this video, I review all of the 80s, so from number 89 to number 80 as the countdown continues to number 1. What I'm holding is possibly and perhaps maybe the most important playbill for a play performed on a New York stage in 1976 about a Zionist luminary. This play, Herzl, was about Theodor Herzl, and it's signed by Paul Hecht, who performed the role of Herzl, and Julia Light, who performed the role of Mrs. Herzl. Now, it's very important that this play was on Broadway to bring the story of Herzl and his desire to save the future and change the future of the Jewish people to a New York Broadway audience. Problem was, the play only lasted for about a week on Broadway, which makes this playbill extremely rare and important. It is important to tell Herzl's story, whether it's in plays, in musicals, in movies, in the Herzl 100. So please continue to follow along as we march through the 100 most important Herzl items of all time. What I'm holding is perhaps the most exquisite example of red crystal, which includes an etching of a Zionist luminary, namely Theodor Herzl, in existence. This Czechoslovakian crystal goblet with a detachable lid has this image of Theodor Herzl, and he is looking at Jerusalem, the Tower of David, with the sun shining over a new future for the Jewish people. And this is an homage to the famous portrait of Herzl on the balcony in Basel, taken in 1901 by E.M. Lillian. This is about Herzl looking at a better future for the Jewish people, and not just for the Jewish people, for all people. He envisioned a better future, a better life for everyone in the area. That was his idea of Zionism, that the Jewish people should be free and safe in their ancestral homeland, and that would inure to the benefit of everyone. So, L'chaim, everyone. Let's hope that Herzl's vision of a Jewish state that lives in peace with its neighbors will someday be realized. That would just top off the whole idea. What I'm holding is perhaps the single best example of the art form known as shirtless, bearded, sunglassed Herzl. This is a genre that is reflective of the laid-back relevance of Herzl. Now, Herzl never looked like this. He lived in Austria and Hungary between 1860 and 1904. And he was a dapper person, and wore a tuxedo, and he wore gloves, and he was a dandy, and he was fancy. But this pin shows that Herzl remains relevant. His idea that there can be a better future, that we're not saddled with the conditions in which we find ourselves. We can dream of something better. We can work to make the world better for ourselves, for our families, for our neighbors. And that the Zionism that he envisioned, the right of the Jewish people to live safely and freely in our ancestral homeland, would be something that would not only be good for the Jewish people, but good for all of the people in the region and people from all around the world. So let's try and be a little more laid back these days. Let's look like laid back Herzl, try and calm things down and see if we can fashion the world that he envisioned, a better, more peaceful world for everyone. Peace out. Holding is a one of one. There is nothing like this anywhere else. See this eagle? It's the symbol of the Eagle Patrol of the Theodor Herzl Troop of the Universal Union of Jewish Youth, which was like a scouts group that operated in Tunisia starting in 1924. And this is the book of its activities for 1936 and 1937. So there were camping activities, as well as learning Zionist thoughts and preparing for life in the Jewish state to be, and thinking and learning about Theodor Herzl. So this is both a diary and a scrapbook containing pictures, items, clips from magazines, stories, quizzes, and other descriptions of the robust activities that including plays and shows that the Theodor Herzl troupe did in the 1930s in Tunis. And it just shows how the idea of Herzl to improve yourselves, to be better citizens, to be better members of a community and work towards a better future through youth activities, through education, through preparation to go to live in Israel ultimately, permeated the world in the early part of the 20th century and ultimately led to the creation of the State of Israel in 1948. What I am holding is probably the most extraordinary example of a Theodor Herzl letter opener ever created. If you turn it on its side, you see the profile of Herzl looking in this direction. Beard, mouth, nose, eyes. It's Herzl looking into the future. Herzl believed we are not saddled with the conditions in which we find ourselves. We can dream of a better future, and he looked forward to that. And this is an example not just for the Jewish people, but for all people. Herzl's belief about a better future continues to resonate. And as we experience the difficulty of Jewish life around the world, where we're very concerned with what is happening in Israel, Herzl teaches us through this letter opener, through his words, and through all of the other Herzl items that you see, that things can be better. If you will it, as he said, it is no dream. If we want something and work towards making it happen, it can happen. There aren't many letters anymore, so we really don't need to use something like this, but it's nice to know that Herzl, once upon a time, helped to open important personal and business letters. Please continue to follow #Herzl100 as we march towards the best Herzl item of all time. What I'm holding is an exquisite example of a 1980s style school yearbook. This was the yearbook for the Herzl School for 1982. The Herzl School was located in Los Angeles, and this particular yearbook belongs to a person named Kip Sandvig, who was clearly very popular. And it talks about the various events and personalities, students, teachers of the school. And importantly and interestingly, at one point, Jane Fonda went to visit the school. If you are Kip Sandberg or a member of his family and you'd like this yearbook back, as much as I'd like to have it in my collection because it's such an exquisite example, it may mean more to you. So please reach out to me. I'll happily return it. But this is, for now, one of the top 100 Herzl items. Please continue to follow #Herzl100. What I'm holding is a bound volume of the minutes of the First Zionist Congress, which was convened by Theodor Herzl in August of 1897. And what Herzl insisted was that every word spoken at the Congress be written down, minuted, and published, because Herzl understood that out in the world there were accusations of Jews sitting in closed doors, meeting and doing nefarious things. And Herzl wanted the world to understand exactly what was being talked about at the Congress. There was press there. It was fully transparent and open. And there were 22 Congresses that were held before Israel was proclaimed in 1948. Herzl attended 6 of them. He died in 1904. And every single one is minuted with verbatim minutes published for all to see. And this approach by Herzl to be open and transparent was very important and very effective. And that is why this volume of minutes from the First Zionist Congress is one of the #Herzl100. There are many Herzl coins and medals, as you see behind me here. But one of the most important and one of the ones that is on the Herzl 100 is this one. It is a medallion. It says, Israel, a dream fulfilled. And on this side, there's Herzl, Chaim Weizmann, Golda Meir, and David Ben-Gurion. And it says, wanderers no more. That was Herzl's idea, that the Jewish people should no longer have to wander through the world, be minorities in every country in which they lived, be subject to anti-Semitism, prejudice, pogroms, and worse. And his vision, Herzl's vision, was that the Jewish people should be safe and free in our ancestral homeland. And he believed that the Jewish people had the same rights as every other people. So if the Jewish people are entitled to this right, all people are entitled to this right. And the work towards achieving Herzl's objective continues. So although the dream has been fulfilled, it has not been completed. The wandering has stopped, but the real dream, the full dream, is the state of Israel living in peace with its neighbors. And hopefully that will happen one day soon. And that's why this medal is one of the hashtag Herzl 100. What I'm holding is one of the saddest Herzl items in my collection. It is a folder with the report cards from the Theodor Herzl School in Berlin for a student named Harry Rewitsch, R-E-W-I-T-S-C-H. These are his grades from 1929 to 1937. And you'll see in the bottom corner, first, it is signed by the principal of the school, a woman named Paula First. Ms. First was one of the founders of the Montessori movement in Germany and started working at the first Montessori school in Berlin in 1926. When the Nazis assumed power in 1933, they outlawed Montessori because it was inconsistent with Nazi ideology because it focused on the individualism of the student. She then took on the job as principal of the Herzl School, and because of the anti-Semitism in Berlin, the number of students at that school swelled from 200 to 600 students. In 1939, Ms. First accompanied a group of students to England and was implored by her friends to stay there, but she wouldn't. She returned, saying that if she abandoned the people who trusted her, her life would be meaningless. She was ultimately deported in 1942 and murdered by the Nazis. But until the deportation, she did the best she could to continue Jewish education for these students. She is memorialized in 3 schools that are named after her. And this is why this is one of the most important 100 Herzl documents. And I put a call out, if anyone is a descendant of Mr. Rewitsch, to please get in touch with me. As important as this is to my collection, it may be important to a family member. So if you are a family member, please reach out to me and I will return this to you. It's a very sad story. And this is what Herzl was worried about when he envisioned the Jewish state. It was a solution to anti-Semitism. He was worried that Jews were living on borrowed time in Europe, and he was right. And this is an example of precisely what he was concerned about. What I'm holding is a postcard which shows Herzl and his 3 children. The oldest, Paulina, the middle, his son, Hans, and the youngest, Trude. This postcard was sent in 1905 from the 7th Zionist Congress in Basel. It's the first Congress after Herzl died. When Herzl died, his children were between 11 and 14 years old. And in pursuit of his Zionist project, Herzl had bankrupted the family. So the family was destitute. Within 4 years, Herzl's wife Julie died, and the children were orphans. All of the children met a very sad ending. Paulina died in 1930 of a drug overdose. Hans died by suicide shortly after his sister's funeral. Trude, she was married and had a child. Trude died in Theresienstadt, and their child Stefan Norman died by suicide after the war once he learned that his parents perished in the war. So Trude and Stefan Norman both died either in the Holocaust or consequence of it. And this is what Herzl feared, the possible destruction of the Jewish people. And that's why he envisioned the state of Israel, a Jewish homeland where the Jews could be safe and free. So Herzl dies and has no descendants, but we are all his descendants. The state of Israel is his legacy, and we owe it to him and his children to preserve Herzl's dream of a Jewish state that's democratic, liberal, living in peace with its neighbors. And that is why this postcard is one of the hashtag Herzl 100.